In this video, we will demonstrate how to work with the pop-up and all its subtypes in Qt Quick Controls. We will be creating a simple application with each of these controls in a column to show what they look like and how to work with them. We'll start with a Qt Quick application called Qt Quick Controls Section 5, which has a window and column of buttons already set up. The goal of this application will be to create various pop-ups which can be opened using this column of buttons. Running the application, we can see we have 5 buttons in a column, which currently do nothing. So we will close the application and start adding the pop-ups. The first component we will add is the pop-up type itself. The pop-up will not appear by default and will only become visible once it is opened. However, we still need to properly size and position it for when it is open, so we will give it a height, width, and anchor it in the center of the window. We will also set the modal property to true, which will disable the rest of the UI while the pop-up is open, and give it a close policy, which disables all auto-closing, to force the user to interact with the pop-up to close it. With that done, we can add the contents of the pop-up. We will keep it simple by adding a row with an OK and Cancel button. Both buttons will print some information to the console, then call the Close function to close the pop-up. With that done, we just need a way to open the pop-up, so we will add a call to the Open function to the on-clicked signal handler of our first button. Running our application, we can see when we click the first button, the pop-up opens and disables the rest of the UI. Clicking either button will close the pop-up and print some information about which button we clicked. We now have a functioning pop-up. However, we would like to add some basic animations to the opening and closing of this pop-up to make it less harsh as it opens and closes. We can do this relatively easily by adding a transition to the enter and exit properties of the pop-up. The transitions will contain simple number animations to increase and reduce the scale of the pop-up as it opens and closes. Running our application, we can see when we click the first button, we now have a nice open animation, and when we click one of the buttons in the pop-up, we have a similar closing animation. Next, we will add a dialog component, which will be opened by clicking the second button in our column. So we will create a dialog component, anchoring it and giving it a height and width. We will then use the Dialog Standard Buttons property to add an OK and Cancel button. The accepted signal is emitted when the OK button is clicked, and the rejected signal is emitted when the Cancel button is clicked. We will give the dialog a title using the title property, which will appear at the top of the dialog window. We can interact with the signals from these buttons using the onAccepted and onRejected signal handlers. Both buttons will print some information and close the dialog. Before running, we need to add the Open function to the second button in our column so we have a way to open the dialog. Running the application, we can see when we click the Open Dialog button, the dialog appears with the title at the top of the dialog and our standard buttons. Clicking the buttons prints some information to the console and closes the dialog. Next, we will add a drawer component, which will be opened by the third button in our column. The drawer is a pop-up that appears from one of the edges of the application. So, we will add a drawer component giving it a height equal to the height of the window and a width that is half the width of the window. We will set the edge property to the left edge and set the interactive property to true, allowing us to open the drawer with a swipe gesture. Since the drawer does not have any standard buttons, we will also add a column with an OK and Cancel button, both of which will close the drawer. Finally, we will add a call to the Open function to the third button in our column, allowing the drawer to be opened by clicking that button. Running the application, we can see when we click the third button, the drawer appears from the left side of the window, and clicking one of the buttons closes the drawer. We can also open and close the drawer using a swipe gesture, as can be seen. Next, we will add a menu component, which will be opened by clicking the fourth button. The menu component creates a drop-down menu, which is typically populated by menu items. So we will create our menu components and add 2 menu items, which will serve as the OK and Cancel buttons. When a menu item is clicked, it will automatically close the menu, so there is no need to manually close it. We would like the menu to appear when we click the fourth button. However, unlike the previous pop-ups, we would like the menu to appear at the same point on the button where we click. So we will use the pop-up function to open the menu and provide it the position of our click on the button. Running the application, we can see when we click the fourth button, the menu appears at the same position where we clicked, and selecting one of the menu items closes the menu. The final pop-up subtype we will add is the tooltip. Unlike the others, we do not need to create a tooltip component. Instead, we will add it to an existing component using an attached property. This is because the tooltip should only exist in the context of another component, since it is meant to provide instructions to the user about that component. So we will go to the fifth button in our column and set several tooltip attached properties. We will set the delay to 1000 so the tooltip will appear after 1 second of hovering. Set the timeout to 5000 so it will disappear after 5 seconds. Set the visible property to hovered so hovering over the button will cause it to appear. And finally, we will set the text to be some instructions about the tooltip. It is worth noting that the hover-enabled property of the button is set to true, which is necessary for the tooltip to work with hovering. Running the application, we can see when we hover over the fifth button, the tooltip appears for 5 seconds before disappearing. In the next video, we will explore each of the container subtypes in Qt Quick Controls 2. Thank you for watching.